gentlemen from the media fraternity and GCOF members, good morning. I've been introduced, but just for emphasis, I'm called Gilbert Kadilo, until recently manager communications and public relations at the National ID Authority, but now plying my trade at the Uganda Management Institute, where I am an associate consultant and lecturer with the Institute. I've been tasked to make a presentation on that subject, if you look at the program lineup for today. And we are here to discuss the idea of demystifying the use of statistics in the public domain. The rest is really detail. Why do we talk about demystifying the use of statistics in the public domain? A lot of the things I'm going to highlight here are from my experience working in different institutions of government, but also doing private consultancy work, as well as a teacher. We have what I would almost call an aversion to statistics and data. And it is something that seems to affect, something that seems to affect everybody across the different layers of governance in this country. An aversion to the use of statistics. I don't know why we fear numbers so much. And because we fear numbers a lot, we end up losing out in very many ways, especially in the effect of telling our stories effectively, as government institutions, as individuals, and as a country. Probably some of the information I wanted to share could be harnessed for another session. But there are clips video clips, short clips, that one could look at how people in other countries, Mr. Oyambi was just here talking about how populations in other countries present themselves or represent their countries. There are clips on how people in other countries, especially in the developed world, use statistics to not only tell their stories, but also to position themselves strategically to be at the forefront of the global economy and development. Look at when some of the leaders and presidents stand before an auditorium. They're not going to go talking for 5 hours and rambling about all sorts of things. He'll stand there and speak for 30 minutes, but it is bang, 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 bang. Statistics, point, statistic, illustrated. Point, illustrated with facts and figures to support their argument. And that's how they achieve their national interests. That's how they achieve their strategic objectives. Between year 2015 and year 2024, we have done 5,000 kilometers of asphalt or paved roads. This has transformed the economy by this amount of money because it has generated trade. So many people have used this road in this period of time. And Every point is illustrated by a statistic. But here, I don't know what happens. But I guess it's never too late to start learning. At the heart of our lives is statistics. Every day we use statistics. You might know it, you might not even know it, but you're using statistics. There are rhymes that we teach our children, kanemu kanabiri, kafumbe mwanyi, etc, etc. What are you teaching this child? You're teaching them to count through fun and play. But that is the beginning of the use of statistics in life. So it is a fact of life that we use statistics and figures in our daily life activities, even when we don't know we are doing so. Numeracy is one of the core cognitive elements of human development, along with language, which is a basis for storytelling. Numerous is math. And when you combine your skill in numeracy or mathematics with your linguistic skills, you have what it takes to tell your story effectively. The other core elements are speech and writing. And so, in a normal teaching learning setup, a classroom session should be built in that, with those four elements in mind. A comprehensive approach to teaching and learning. That figure in the center, for purposes of this talk, illustrates the intermeshing of the different institutions of government, each of which is playing its role separately within their mandate, but each of which is generating data on a daily basis to facilitate national planning, to facilitate social transformation, to drive development. So look at yourself there. There's Minister of Finance, there's Minister of Labor, Gender and Social Development, there's UBOS, there's everybody, police, they're there in that mix, each generating data on a daily basis. And it is that data that our friends at UBOS collect for us and help us to make sense of in terms of then developing our development agenda and policies. So where does that leave us as government communications officers? As a government communications officer, in your setting, within your respective organizations, how have you harnessed the power of statistics to tell your story? When you sit down to issue a press release, what are you saying? Is it Lugambo, Luzungu, or just words? But are you interested in illustrating the progress you have made, the progression you have made in terms of service delivery by using your statistics? When you sit to write an op-ed to send to a media house, do you have facts and figures to support the work that you have put together? Government is essentially meant to implement policies and programs that are geared towards transforming lives and development right from the individual level through communities to the national level. How do you demonstrate the efficacy or effectiveness of these policies and programs? The aggregated development indices at the individual level at what demonstrate how far a country has grown, or developed over a given period of time. Today we are saying so many thousand people have accessed PDM funds. Do you have that statistic? In your particular area, as an institution, do you have an interest in that? You should. Because the activities that the PDM funds are going to facilitate in the communities directly touch your specific institution. You are a. These people are going to generate income.
The Electoral Commission is conducting an identification and mapping exercise of persons with disabilities, PWDs, on the National Voters Register in preparation for the 2025-2026 general elections. Village council meetings will be held countrywide from 4th to 13th November 2024 to update the lists of PWDs in your village or cell. At each meeting, lists of identified PWDs will be compiled to ensure no one is left out. If you're a person with a disability, whether already on the National Voters Register or eligible but not yet registered, please participate in this important exercise. This message is from the Electoral Commission.
You're going to tax them. Take an interest in what the PDM fund is achieving. But it is also not just a matter of splashing statistics out there. The next question is, so what? And that is where the question of impact comes in. There's receiving money, but it doesn't help people transform their lives. You've heard stories of where people pick money from government funds and then go and marry second and third wives, instead of putting it to use into something productive. It is happening out there in the community. So where's the impact? Are you tracking what is going on? So out of what has been disbursed under PDM, how much of it has actually had an impact? And then you tell your story along those lines. In order for our communications to be useful to the public that we engage with, we are duty-bound to demonstrate how our various institutions have impacted the lives of the citizens of this country. We are duty-bound to demonstrate. And you, as the storyteller within that institution you're working for or with, it is your duty primarily to tell this story of impact. Like Mzee Yambi was saying, instead of sitting there and mourning and castigating and blaming, what have you done within your jurisdiction to help correct the public view about the program you are implementing? This is your call to duty, gentlemen and ladies. It is why you are sitting where you are sitting today. It is therefore important within the institutional setup that communicators understand statistics and their importance in telling their stories to the world. Read those reports that are coming in from your planning department. M&E reports, read them, understand them, digest them, and out of that information, come up with credible, verifiable, and believable stories for the public. Don't sit and wait to be called to issue a press release. You're underutilizing yourself, and in fact, you're cheating the people of this country who are the taxpayers who pay you. This also requires that management and other actors in the institutions that you work for understand this value. Unfortunately, I don't know how many technocrats we have here from the different ministries, agencies, and departments. They should hear this. If they are not here, please help us, Didacus and your team, through your leadership here, to take this information down to the different institutions of government. I have worked in various institutions of government, and from experience, it is a tug of war to get data from people. It's like the data that is being collected is personal. You walk to Department X, they say, for us, we don't have that. It is their department that is responsible for that information. You walk to that department, they say, no, but you should have gone to the other side. But I've just been there, sir, madam. And they've sent me to you. Meanwhile, time is passing. There's an issue to be resolved. There's an issue to be clarified in the public domain. The media are waiting, but you're busy running up and down corridors because nobody is ready to give you information at the click of a button. That needs to be corrected within the institutional setup. But that also speaks volumes about how much importance your institution accords to the function that you are performing. Do they understand you? Do they understand your role? Or they think your role is to hold a camera and run around taking pictures when they are shaking hands and exchanging MOUs and holding umbrellas for your principals to help them walk through rain. That needs to be corrected. Because your function is much bigger than that. When I started making my presentation, I said we have what appears to be an aversion to statistics and data. As communications people, it is a requirement that you take an active interest in understanding statistics within your respective institutions, but also at a national level. Because remember, your institution feeds into the nation. Stop operating inside.
The Electoral Commission is conducting an identification and mapping exercise of persons with disabilities, PWDs, on the National Voters Register in preparation for the 2025-2026 general elections. Village council meetings will be held countrywide from 4th to 13th November 2024 to update the lists of PWDs in your village or cell. At each meeting, lists of identified PWDs will be compiled to ensure no one is left out. If you're a person with a disability, whether already on the National Voters Register or eligible but not yet registered, please participate in this important exercise. This message is from the Electoral Commission.
Silos. I've already said it requires that the technocrats within the different institutions understands the value of the statistics they collect beyond demonstrating government or demonstrating program outcomes. That the real consumers of statistics are the communities out there, especially in as far as they relate to their well-being and improved lives. People out there need this data. They need the statistics to plan their lives, to make investment decisions. But not everybody can walk to Ministry of Finance to get this information. It is you, as the communications person, to make sure this information is readily available to the public and in a way that they can easily consume for their different purposes and interests. It also means that management gets out of using comms for purposes of peacockry and posturing. The story is not about you, the individual. The story is not about you. The story is about what you have led your institution to deliver for the people of this country. I can scarcely overemphasize that. Unlike in the developed world, Africa is far off in terms of use of statistics to tell its stories. Most of the communications, sales pitches, and even public relations campaigns in the more developed parts of the world are told with clear statistics, but also they demonstrate impact. We are yet to learn that. When we go for our trade shows and promotions across the world, for those of you who often get chance to go and do exhibitions out there, are you equipped with the sort of information and data that is going to help an investor out there to take a decision and say, instead of taking my investment to Tanzania, I'm going to put it in Uganda? Because they are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. They are seeing the light, that this is where the light is. So I won't go to Tanzania, I'll go to Uganda as my preferred investment destination. Oh, it's about carrying brochures. Yes, those are good. Put banners and look colorful. Your Koi attire, national flag. It's perfect, that's okay. But there's a story behind those colors. There is a story behind those colors. The story behind those colors are 45 million people who are looking to benefit from your trip to Shanghai to exhibit. Because what you attract from there helps their lives to transform. And you require statistics and data to convince people. The money people look at their money, they watch their money. And is saying, if I put so many million US dollars in this project in Kampala or in Jinja, what are the returns on investment given the statistics that have been presented to me? So, give me a reason to come and invest in Jinja. Media and statistics. And this is where there are huge challenges. So at one level, you're dealing with the use of statistics, demystifying the use of statistics within the organization.
The Electoral Commission is conducting an identification and mapping exercise of persons with disabilities, PWDs, on the National Voters Register in preparation for the 2025-2026 general elections. Village council meetings will be held countrywide from 4th to 13th November 2024 to update the lists of PWDs in your village or cell. At each meeting, lists of identified PWDs will be compiled to ensure no one is left out. If you're a person with a disability, whether already on the National Voters Register or eligible but not yet registered, please participate in this important exercise. This message is from the Electoral Commission.
Organizational setup. But assuming you are very good and organized within your institution, with your statistics, yeah, you're spot on, you've got all the data and what have you. How do you then use that information in the public domain effectively? How do you relate this information through the various media platforms that you have and tailor it to be suited to specific audiences and target groups? And here for me, I'm saying most media establishments around the world, the serious ones, reputable ones, today have embraced the use of figures and statistics to add punch to their reportage. They will probe sources for statistics and figures to illustrate an issue. They have moved beyond the famous 5 W's and H. Those are still core to any news report. But the next question is, so what? So what? What is the impact of this decision taken by so and so on this date? So what? And this is where I often found, in my experience in government institutions, a challenge, especially from the media side of view. Somebody comes to you, the red top at Kololo calls, sir, you have somebody from media here. Say, okay, I'm expecting them, send them in. You come in. Sir, I'm here from Bukede. Sorry, I'm just using that as an illustration. I'm not saying Bukede is shoddy. I'm here from Bukede newspaper. Say, I am reporting on a story of how many people have registered for national IDs. Most people out there don't have national IDs. Most. Sir, madam, what do you mean most? What is your source of information? At least by the time you come to me, have some information that we can discuss, so that I can either confirm what you have or I give you alternative figures. So for me, those who know how I operate in those offices, I'll first tell you, okay, put that camera aside, and I educate you. So I'll remove my hat of a PRO and put on my teacher's hat, and first take you to class. Then when I'm done with you, I say, okay, now you can bring your camera back and we take your recording. Because I find that a lot of our media people do not put in effort to research, do not put in effort to understand issues. It is knee-jerk. He comes up with an idea, maybe he dreamt about it at night, in the morning newsroom session, brainstorming, what story ideas. Sir, I have this one. Say, okay, you go. Those who are lucky, you pass by the finance office, they give you some facilitation for transport. Jump on a border, pocket the rest for lunch. Go to Kololo, gathering news. You've not done any reading, you've not done any inquisition on your part. If you meet an unkind person, you will suffer. And I have seen this as a journalist in the newsroom. When I worked at the New Vision some years back, a young journalist was sent to interview the then Minister of Foreign Affairs, the late Eria Kategaya, a about issues of foreign policy and things like that. She arrives, she is received, they sit.
The Electoral Commission is conducting an identification and mapping exercise of persons with disabilities, PWDs, on the National Voters Register in preparation for the 2025-2026 general elections. Village council meetings will be held countrywide from 4th to 13th November 2024 to update the lists of PWDs in your village or cell. At each meeting, lists of identified PWDs will be compiled to ensure no one is left out. If you're a person with a disability, whether already on the National Voters Register or eligible but not yet registered, please participate in this important exercise. This message is from the Electoral Commission.
She starts the interview. A few minutes into the interview, call to the editor. Hello, this is Honorable Kategaya. I'm sending your journalist back. She's not ready for this interview. If we have to do the interview today, send me somebody better prepared. You can't imagine how much damage that can do to your self-confidence as a reporter. You can't imagine. She went home straight. She didn't even come back to the newsroom that day. And for you, the person on the other side, the communications officer, with all your pomp and swinging chair, sir, somebody will come and challenge you on statistics. You don't know a thing. Then you start saying, can I get back to you later? Can I get back? Let me check with other offices. These are things you should have at hand. These are things you should have at hand. And that is when the media will respect you. That's when the public will respect you. So be prepared with your statistics. So when somebody comes and starts giving information, statistical information, then you know what to give back. During a tree planting exercise one time, I was still with National Forestry Authority then. We partnered with a group to launch a tree planting campaign against along roadsides. So the launch was at Nambole, down that area where the rotting Pioneer buses are parked today. And the president was the chief guest to launch. So in his speech, opening speech, is there talking, and that day I was the one representing NFA. So he's talking, then from nowhere, where are these forests people? My friend, I felt my body go cold. So SFC comes, forest. I had to get up and stand. He's standing there, I'm standing here, facing each other. Tell us, what acreage of trees are we losing every year? How many of those acres are being lost in natural forests? How many trees are we planting every year? What is the difference in gap between trees lost and those planted? What varieties of trees are? But he found me steady. I'm proud to say
The Electoral Commission is conducting an identification and mapping exercise of persons with disabilities, PWDs, on the National Voters Register in preparation for the 2025-2026 general elections. Village council meetings will be held countrywide from 4th to 13th November 2024 to update the lists of PWDs in your village or cell. At each meeting, lists of identified PWDs will be compiled to ensure no one is left out. If you're a person with a disability, whether already on the National Voters Register or eligible but not yet registered, please participate in this important exercise. This message is from the Electoral Commission.
He found me awake and steady. I had not taken any beers the previous night because I knew I was in for a big show. So I gave him the facts, one-on-one. This question, answer. This question, answer. This question, answer. I'm not boasting. These things are on record. Go to PPU. I can't begin to imagine what would have happened if I was not ready that day. I can't begin to imagine what would have happened. I leave that there. And this is where often comms people fall short. It is therefore imperative on you to ensure that management and the technical units understand the value and importance of statistics in driving your institution's message. It's not enough to splash statistics, interpret them, and put them out in a manner that an ordinary person can understand. Use your storytelling skills to interpret figures and present them in a manner that makes them relevant to your audience. And this is regardless of the platform you have chosen to use. If, for instance, you have statistics, a series of statistics, and you wanted to do TikTok, break them up, chunks, this, then you do a series, a quick one, following one another. Put on your social media handle or account. It's interesting, it's dynamic, it's living. People will love it. It's easy to trend that way. I would like to end here. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Another hand clap. I was coming to add you more minutes, sir, but you decided to end. Some people here may think I had come to notify you of time, but your presentation was good and I had come to add you more 10 minutes. But now, since that you've decided to finish, thank you so much. I mean, the presentation was, of course, interesting. Thank you so much. No, we shall have that session. Yes. I know this presentation cannot, of course, go without having questions. But allow us go to another presentation, then we shall have the Q&A session later. So now we shall have our acting head of department, Madame Betty Naova.
The Electoral Commission is conducting an identification and mapping exercise of persons with disabilities, PWDs, on the National Voters Register in preparation for the 2025-2026 general elections. Village council meetings will be held countrywide from 4th to 13th November 2024 to update the lists of PWDs in your village or cell. At each meeting, lists of identified PWDs will be compiled to ensure no one is left out. If you're a person with a disability, whether already on the National Voters Register or eligible but not yet registered, please participate in this important exercise. This message is from the Electoral Commission.